What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Headlines in Pro Wrestling this week from Kayfabe Central. I am your host, Josh. As always, I feel like my intro is different every single time, but you know what? It changes things up a little bit. I am using a new platform to record this podcast. I usually use Zencaster, and I am not this time, so if the audio sounds worse or better, or if it sounds the same, let me know either way so I know what to fix or don't fix or keep the same and all that good stuff. So, yeah, we're going to get into a self promo before we get into anything. As always, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos. Go check out my interview with Alexi and Nicole. Great conversation there. I am going to be promoting that a little more than I have been. It's just been a really busy week. So go check that interview out. I will have more interviews coming soon. I had a press pass thing earlier in the day where it was I was in a press pass like Zoom meeting with Joe Hendry and other media personnel. I didn't get the opportunity to ask him a question. There was a lot of other media personnel in there, but it's okay. It was my first time being in a meeting like that, and it was pretty cool just being in that environment and being able to just be there. And obviously, hopefully next time I can get some questions out, but it happens. There was a lot of people there, and so there was a lot of other people that didn't get to ask questions either, so that's perfectly okay. But yeah, I am going to be in those press pass meetings often for TNA, which means I am now covering TNA, which I was only covering the pay-per-views beforehand. But now I am covering TNA as well, along with the AEW and WWE and things like that. So a lot more work, but it is what it is. That's what this job pertains. But we're going to get straight into the headlines of the week. We have quite a few things to get into here. First things first on the list here that I have is the AAA partnership, which I talked about a little bit when we were doing the Wrestlemania reviews and the podcasts for Wrestlemania and stuff like that. I talked a bit about that. Worlds collide with WWE, NXT, and AAA is happening on the same day as Money in the Bank, which I'm not a fan of because it's just going to be the same thing as like what they did with WrestleMania and Stand and Deliver. But it is what it is. I'm really not a fan of the 2 days in two pay-per-views in one day kind of thing. Especially when you're doing this, it does get very tiring and exhausting. And like, even next month in May, we have a lot of pay-per-views that fall under the same like weekend or same day and things like that. So it's going to be a lot these next couple months. But yeah, AAA partnering with not even partnering, WWE acquired AAA. So yeah, WWE owns AAA. Now, from what I've been hearing, because I've never watched a AAA show, from what I've been hearing is that WWE acquired not the greatest promotion in AAA. And when I look at the roster page on, I believe it was SmackDown Hotel, which is a great page and website for rosters and stuff like that, I believe there was only 5 people listed for that roster. I can't remember all 5, and I didn't write all 5 down, but one of them was El Hijo del Vikingo. I don't even know if I said his name right, but it was Vikingo. So, and I think Vikingo is going to be the main guy that WWE pushes and showcases in the time to come. So, I'm going to be very interested. There is one person in AAA that I really hope WWE doesn't showcase, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to this know who that is. That being Alberto Del Rio. I don't know. I can't fully remember what he's going by now. Alberto El Patron or something like that. I have no interest in seeing him in a wrestling ring ever again. So yeah, I really hope that's not the case. But yeah, not much else to talk about on that. Next, speaking of lucha in Mexico and all those things, AEW Grand Slam is happening in Mexico, which they don't have this listed as a Dynamite, so I'm not sure if this counts as a Dynamite episode because it does fall on a Wednesday, and I think we have like that Bash at the Beach show, which is also not listed as a Dynamite, so I'm not sure if these count as Dynamite shows or anything like that. So it's very weird how they go about this. But yeah, AEW Grand Slam is in Mexico. Mexico's getting a lot of wrestling in the next month, so that'll be good for them. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I don't think I have any other things to say about that. AEW is doing a lot of TV specials in the next few weeks, in the next month, and things like that, because their next pay per view is Double or Nothing, which I believe is May 25th, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we got a lot of AEW things, TV specials, and pay per views coming up. We saw a clip for WWE Unreal where it was showing the behind the scenes for what was planned for WrestleMania, and it looks like this is going to be a series that they do. And so if you haven't heard of WWE Unreal, it's pretty much what I just talked about. It's behind the scenes of like what goes into the writing and what goes into planning and making changes for the shows and things like that. And this looked very interesting, and it is definitely something I'm going to check out because there was a shot in this trailer that had a whiteboard. You can't really see what's on the whiteboard completely, but some of the things I did catch, and then Twitter posted and was able to catch, for like the people that really study this, kudos to you, because I was going to, but I just didn't get the time to. And lots of people put these in like websites and stuff like this, and like AI to really like see what was on the whiteboard. And I don't have all the match lists in front of me, but there was a few things that they had planned that they completely changed. One of them being that Charlotte and Becky were supposed to be a team at WrestleMania. Now, that is very interesting to me because that is obviously that is not any way in the direction that they went for that. Obviously, Charlotte ended up facing Tiffany Stratton, and Becky teamed with Lyra. They had Dom versus Bad Bunny listed, which I am glad that they didn't go that route, and I'm glad that Dom won a title instead in that Fatal 4-Way. It is something I can see happening eventually. We had Braun Breaker and Drew McIntyre listed. Those are two people that I can see feuding eventually down the line, but obviously not the direction they went. I didn't see Damian Priest listed anywhere. He could have just been at the bottom. Like I said, it's very blurry, and there was a very like shitty shot of it. I guess they didn't want to show all of it, and they tried to blur as much as they could, but you could very well clearly see it. So yeah, there was a few things on there. I didn't see Jey Uso on there. So this makes me think and wonder when this was recorded and when this was like broadcasted or whatever, because that would give me a lot more like intel onto when these things changed, is what I'm trying to say. So because from what I saw, they had CM Punk potentially challenging Gunther, and they had potentially Roman versus Seth, or Punk versus Seth, or Punk versus Roman. They didn't have it listed as a triple threat, so I find that pretty interesting. Just a little bit of like intel on WWE Unreal there. I'm definitely gonna check that out, and I definitely recommend you check it out because it definitely does look like something that will get a lot of fans' attention. Um, this is not something I was going to talk about because it's just stupid, but I remember that when the announcement came out, that was the podcast I didn't get to record. Well, I don't think I was doing the podcast at the time. I think it was just the articles that I was writing for the headlines in the week. But I didn't get to give my thoughts on it, which is the roast of WrestleMania. Now, when this was announced, I knew it was not going to be good. And I listened to, and I'm also not a fan of the host of it, Tony Hinchcliffe. I'm not going to get into that. I don't like the guy. And I, quite honestly, I don't think he's funny. I really don't. But I listened to some of these things, and I listened to some other people talk about the roast of WrestleMania, and most of this stuff just wasn't funny. Like, look, I'm all for certain jokes. I'm all for comedy. I'm all for roast comedy, even. But they did not go about this like good at all. There was not much things funny about this. There was a few things that I heard that made me chuckle a little bit, but nothing that made me like, burst out laughing or anything like that. There was a point in the show where it was just nothing but racist jokes, and it wasn't even like it wasn't funny. It is what I'm trying to say. It just wasn't funny, and like I get it. Dark humor is a thing. Cool. But all that I got from this is that they were just being racist and trying to be funny with it. Where there was nothing funny about the jokes they were telling. I'm not even going to repeat some of the jokes they were telling because I don't feel comfortable repeating those things on a podcast like this. But I honestly just didn't find them funny. And I am someone who laughs at a lot. And I find a lot of things funny. And I am someone who enjoys stand-up comedy and roast comedy. But this did not make me laugh. And that is, if anybody that knows me personally would know that's a problem. Because there are times where I find the stupidest things funny. But this was stupid to the point where it just wasn't funny. And that's all I'm going to say about that. This just wasn't good. I didn't think it was a good idea from the minute they announced it. And like I said, I don't think Tony Hinchcliffe is funny either. So that's my thought on that. I don't have a transition for this, but the Universal title has officially been retired. Now, they had Cody listed as a Universal Champion for a good portion of his reign. Up until the end, I think, honestly, up until, like, the Chamber where the Cena feud started, they then listed him as the undisputed WWE Champion. But they didn't retire this until recently. Which makes me think that the people running the WWE.com site just don't pay attention to this. Which is honestly sad, because this is where I sometimes go to get information for, my notes for my podcast and stuff, and they're just not updating these sites. So now that John Cena is the WWE Champion, is undisputed WWE Champion, whatever. There weren't that many holders for the title. Obviously, Roman was the longest one, and they had him listed as the Universal Champion. I think they have Cody Rhodes listed as the last Universal Champion. So, I guess it's just the undisputed WWE Championship now. And, like we've heard Cena just refer to as the WWE Championship and talk about its legacy and stuff like that. So, the Universal title is officially retired, and no transition for this either, but unfortunately Tama Tonga is injured, And it always sucks when people get injured in the sport. It's or any sport. It's a very shitty thing to hear. So I hope he has a speedy recovery. I don't think that they were going to do anything with Tama Tonga anyway, except for him to lose to someone that Jacob Fatu was feuding with. So honestly, it's not terrible that he's off TV. It's bad that he's injured, and I feel bad for the guy because I do like Tama Tonga. But yeah, I think he was just gonna lose that for to anyone that Jacob was feuding with, and yeah, I guess it's better to get injured post Mania than it is before or during WrestleMania. Not like he was on WrestleMania anyway, but um, yeah, that's some unfortunate news. Some more unfortunate news is that Steve Mongo McMichael has passed away, and obviously not something we enjoy talking about here on the podcast. Anytime someone passes away, I always like to send my condolences to the families and anyone involved with Steve Mongo McMichael. Um, I'm obviously not going to come on here and be like, oh, I can list off like 10 of my favorite Steve Mongo McMichael matches, but I do know he was a pretty big part in WCW, which I was not alive for at the time, but I am someone who goes back and watches things, so I have seen a few of his stuff. And he had a really fun character this guy had. I don't think he really fit in with when he was doing the Four Horsemen stuff and things like that. Nothing too memorable that I've seen from him, but yeah, that's in terms of his wrestling career. Obviously, very unfortunate that he's passed away now. So rest in peace to Steve Mongo McMichael. Um, yeah. So that's that. Something a little bit random here, but I decided to put it in because it technically is a headline that Cathy Kelley is training at the WWE Performance Center now. And from what I've been hearing is that this is for a manager position. That's what I've been hearing. It's not to compete in ring, but obviously as a manager, you sometimes take bumps. Like we've seen Paul Heyman take a ton of bumps in like the past month or so. So, yeah, this is cool. I think if she thinks that she can thrive in this position, I am open to seeing what it brings. I'm obviously not going to be one of those people who just shut this down completely. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like that, but I am um, open to anything. If this is something that she feels like she can do and it ends up being great, then awesome. If it ends up being bad, then you'll obviously hear my opinion on that too. So, I do like Cathy Kelley. I think she's great, and I'm happy that she's trying to branch out a little bit. It does make me think if Samantha Irvin was still here, if she would have got a position like this, because she had said that she wanted to do something like this before. So I'm not sure. Um, yeah, pretty cool that Cathy Kelley is now training at the Performance Center, and if it ends up going nowhere, then we probably know that maybe she felt like she wasn't feeling it anymore, or she just wasn't really connecting with it or something like that. So it's all a we'll see, and if something ends up happening with it, I don't know who she'd potentially manage or what the role would be, or if she'd have a completely different character. Um, from what I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people, and honestly me too, want to see something with her and Rhea Ripley. And yeah, that's been the main thing on Twitter when it comes to this headline here. Another headline here, we're gonna get into some the weekly show stuff. Is that first things first? Rusev has returned to the WWE. I don't really like the fashion how he returned. He So how they went about this was he came back. Alpha Academy came out and challenged the New Day to a World Tag Team title match, in which the New Day ended up accepting. Before the match could start, Rusev's music hits. Um, Rusev comes out, and the New Day runs away, and the Rusev and Rusev just beats up Alpha Academy. This is probably going to set up Akira Tozawa versus Rusev next week, and then Rusev versus Otis the next week, and then maybe end up in a handicap match, and then they throw him into an actual feud post Backlash. Alpha Academy's just there, honestly, to job out. I guess they're their WWE's go-to job guys. So, which honestly makes me question even more as to why they were beside the current World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso for that entire thing. But that is what it is. So next up we have, still on Monday Night Raw here, Lyra, Valkyria, and Becky Lynch dropped the Women's Tag Team Championship back to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. After the match, Becky turns heel on Lyra. Now, I'm not a fan of this, and I think that this was just a waste, not the way I would have went about it. Liv Morgan and Raquel are now 4-time Women's Tag Team Champions, if I'm not mistaken. They made that a thing, and then now Becky's turning heel. And this kind of goes back to the WWE Unreal topic, where if they still want to do the Charlotte and Becky tag team, technically they can now that they're both a heel. So maybe that's the direction they still go in. So yeah, I have no clue. While we're on the topic of, Lyra and Becky, I want to, briefly just switch the topic over to Bayley, who obviously we know was kayfabe hurt with the backstage segment in the pre-show of night 1, and she was then replaced by Becky. And I think this leads to a feud with Becky and Bayley, and it's going to be a Jade Cargill copy and paste situation where Becky was the one who attacked Bayley. I honestly think that, because according to Bayley, her contract is up in a year and a half. I think that there's a solid chance that Bayley leaves the company and goes over to AEW with Mercedes. And there's obviously the possibility when Mercedes' contract is up, she goes back over to WWE. But honestly, I can see Bayley leaving. It wouldn't surprise me if she didn't resign and went over to AEW. So yeah, that's where I see that going. But yeah, I think this is gonna lead to a feud with Becky and Bayley. I don't really know what Lyra does from here, if she's just going to be involved in this, and when she's gonna defend the Women's Intercontinental title. I have no clue. This is all just all over the place right now. But something I did like from Monday Night Raw, Braun Breaker has now joined Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman in a new, I wrote here, a dangerous alliance. And I love this. I love that they added Braun Breaker to this, because this is really going to push Braun Breaker to the moon. This is going to give him the push that he absolutely deserves. And Paul Heyman is obviously very big on Braun Breaker. We saw that early on when Braun, I think, was still in NXT. We saw a moment between them, which, recently resurfaced on Twitter, because, Twitter finds everything. And I'd like to see them add a few more people, maybe like young talent or underutilized talent. Maybe add someone like a Shayna Baszler to it. Paul Heyman is honestly the smartest manager or person in wrestling, and Paul is going to align himself with the people that he sees fit for this. That was the second time I've burped on these podcasts, and I apologize to ears. I'm going to try to cut that out. But yeah, Paul is always going to align himself with people that he finds that is going to have that longevity. and is going to do well. And obviously, he sees that in Braun Breaker. I see that in Braun Breaker. A lot of other people see that in Braun Breaker. And, um, yeah, I definitely see this going far. They literally said this on commentary during this segment that this is going to lead to the main event of next year's WrestleMania. So I'm curious what they do. I'm really hoping that Seth just beats Jey Uso at Backlash for the world title. I'm really hoping that's the case. If not, and they go with like Sammy and Jay teaming up or something like that, I see him winning it by like Saturday night's main event or Money in the Bank. Which makes me think what they do with the Money in the Bank winner, because they're not going to cash in on Cena, and if Seth is holding the title, they're probably not going to be successful in that, so maybe just another loss for the Money in the Bank winner. I have no clue where they're going to go with that, but I do like this alliance here. Now, for NXT, there wasn't much. I only have one thing written here, and it's the last thing for the headlines of the week, and it's that Noam Dar returns, and he won the NXT Heritage Cup for a record 4th time. Now, I like Noam Dar, and I'm happy that he's back. I just don't think it's a good idea to put the Heritage Cup on him again. I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. And if they bring back, like the British rules thing, and it's just going to be me waiting to see who he loses it to next. And I don't really want to see like a 300 or 180 day reign, whatever he had again for this. Maybe they just end up unifying it. Maybe they give it to someone like Javon or Ethan. And I'm not a huge fan of him winning it again, but I do like Noam Dar, and I'm happy that he's back. That's everything that I have written here. I got so into it that I let out a burp, which I am going to try to cut out, and if I can't, then I apologize. But yeah, that's going to be everything for the headlines of pro wrestling this week. I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I don't know when the next time I will be here is. It might be the next headlines of the week. And I am going to try to get more interviews out to you guys. I am always reaching out to wrestlers for interviews. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos. Go follow Kayfabe Central on all social medias if you want to keep up to date with news or like predictions and results. I always have show coverage and weekly coverage for Monday Night Raw, NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown, and now TNA is going to be up there as well. Always have the results and coverage for those shows, and obviously the PLEs and pay-per-views. So go ahead and check out the Kayfabe Central website as well, along with going to follow Kayfabe Central on all social media, because you will get updates on news on those platforms as well. And they are all always in the description. So go and check those out. Go and follow me over there, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.